Morning. It is a little after 10, and I have my plein air set up today to do a second piece. So today is we'll just take a survey of some of the pieces that I was sharing with you all yesterday, my whole nature scene, and we're going to continue with that theme today. Tomorrow it will be watercolor collage, a little bit of watercolor and collage as a demonstration, and the gist of that show will be all the goddess guides and angels, and a few of the meditations, and of course the painted glass. So today again, I'm just going to do a walk around, and I'm going to do a small plein air demonstration, uh, and I'm going to choose a architectural this time instead of the flower that I did yesterday. I did post the flower, so some of you may have seen the little flowers that I did yesterday as a plein air demonstration. But today I'm going to do my shed back here. So I'll show you that, and then how to sort of sketch it out and make it happen. I do have, it is so hot. I think it's supposed to be 90 the rest of the week, and it feels like it's already 90 out here. And so anyway, I have my coffee, iced coffee, with a little sprig of rosemary in it. Can't be drinking no hot coffee this morning out here. So we're going to get started. And yesterday I kind of had a long live because I was doing the plein air painting for an extended amount of time. So today I'm going to try to keep it to the hour. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and unmount here so we can move around and do a quick review, and then I'll share with you some of the plein air, different types of materials and supplies that you might use if you get to go out and do plein air. Now there's a difference. Some people do plein air pastels, some people do plein air watercolors, and I like to do oils. I don't know. I'm working with oils most of the time in my personal work. That's just me. So, okay, so let's get around here. First, I'm going to go to, hey, Aaron, how you doing? First, I'm going to go to the piece I finished yesterday. I had about 20 minutes after the live to sort of tighten up the details on this piece and sort of bring it to life. You know, get the little petals together, and the gravel and the grass, and the location where it's just against the house there. So that one, number 67, is available for $150. A little cute little plein air watercolor, and these are some of the pieces. I'll start over here on this side with Pear's Pear and our little daisy blast, and hydrangeas, little painted glass, number 25, hydrangeas, and then down here a plein air piece that I did at Stone Mountain Park called Noon, 185, that's number 101. And then Japanese Gardens in San Francisco it's near the DeYoung Museum, and this is in the another part of the park, which is where you can walk through the gardens there. And this is from a childhood memory, well, from a photograph, but we went there as children with my grandmother. So number 75. Backyard beach is what I hope to have as one of my locations to live. Let's just put it out there. Step 74. Oops. And this one, the glass is sweating. I kind of left this one out, and I shouldn't have. Number 59, trees at Fernbank Museum. Taken from photographs, most of these. They're not PLEIN AIR. Rocks at Stone Mountain, number 46. And Breath and Teal, number 103. And here, down here at the bottom is Canopy. It's a big old tree. 104. And this one here is Cool Breath. The card kind of got away. Cool Breath, number 71. And Warmth, number 150. I mean, number 64. And Twilight Tree. Number 71. And number 105, Grasses at Harrison Pond, number 105. And Green Path, a PLEIN AIR piece that I did at Olmsted Parks, the Olmsted Organization's competition called Quick Paint. You had 2 hours to paint a picture, and then there was a competition afterwards. And then number 60, Blue Hydrangeas. All right, then I'm going to move over here to some newer pieces. Watercolor. That's number 1. And these are all between 75 and 100. This next one is number 156. A little landscape. And it's untitled. It's just, it's not a specific location, but a little sketch from my head. And then this is a little tiny oil, little purple flowers. Just unframed oil. That is number 146. So let me get the numbers. Okay, so that would be number 146. And there's another one of those little landscapes. Sort of a little fun play. I want to say that they're kind of reminiscent of like the paintings that I like of Van Gogh's. So obviously I'm sort of a impressionist in a way. So and this is just a little fun piece. That's number 158. And I used to do peaches a lot. And so this is a little playful one that I did. That is number 158. All right. So I'm going to put those back and move over here. This is an order that I did here yesterday. A gentleman wanted a less feminine container. He wanted a different kind of container, so but he wanted the moon theme. So that piece I finished for him yesterday, and I'll have to move it out to this side. You have the moon on this side. On that side, and through the trees you see the moon. So I had a big bottle with that design, and so I finished that for him yesterday. There we go. And the rest of these guys, you have are documented, I guess. on the other videos, and so I'm just going to do a quick scan, and then we can get to the plein air painting part of today's live. And coming around here to number 55, and then these two, which are in line with our subject today. You know, finding a location, finding a little spot of beauty or a little spot of interest, and painting it. Number 100, grasses at Harrison Park, and number 44, which is the view on the pond at Stone Mountain Park near the lake. There we go. That's number 44. So let's get ourselves hooked up over here back to let's get ourselves hooked up back here to plein air painting with the Mwasa. I had spoken before about how I've done a painting class, plein air, and it's really, you know, a kind of a group. We get together, and I started out with a couple of people, and then I was planning on it being just a summer thing. So, you know, I advertised it as a summer activity, and one of my persons wanted to do it, wanted to continue, so we did, and we continued for a year, pretty much, and painting plein air outside, and then sometimes in my studio in the inside space we did some other subjects and some other skills that she wanted to work on as a painter. So today let's go ahead and get started. Got my little handy dandy mini palette. This one is like, I have a bunch of different palettes, but I kind of like, if I'm working on a couple of different paintings, you got to have a couple of different palettes going on. So this is my little homemade palette, discarded cutting board, and this is a palette paper, so I don't have to get the paint on the wood, which is a little bit of work every time if you got to try to get it off. And then if you're traveling, then you got that board with the paint. You must clean it, or you have to put it in something protective. The other things that you have to work with when you're working with oil, obviously, are your linseed oil, your solvent, which might be turpentine or mineral spirits, are kind of the two that I use. And then you got your Demar varnish, and if you'll mix that, linseed oil, turpentine, and a couple of drops, when you're making this amount, a couple of drops of the Demar varnish, it helps you with your glazing, and you know, it offers a little suspension, a little bit more suspension of the paint pigment, or the pigment or particles in the paint, on the paint surface. So the less you use of the Demar varnish, the more you're going to have the drying of the linseed oil, and sometimes it will dry sort of gummy. But if you can add the Demar varnish, it dries, I think, to a more harder, like varnish. It dries to a more harder surface than the linseed oil will. It will stay like gummy, you know, like baked on oil on a pot. It'll stay like that. So I have a number of different brushes and knives, and I'll probably be using a combination of those. And I need to get my turpentine into my container. So if I need to rinse the brush, I need to go ahead and do that. Whoop. Now that was cute. Okay. So I'm going to take all of these brushes out of here because these are from yesterday and I don't know which ones I'm going to use yet. So I'm going to put those right over here, out of the way. and get some of that thinner in there. And I know another important thing here in Georgia, if depending on if you're painting in the evening and then sometimes in the daytime, depending on where you are, if you're near water or whatever, you got to have you some kind of protection if you don't want to use any of the more stronger stuff. This is great for plein air painting, especially. You got to have something like that, and a hat if you're going to be out in the sun. I'm not doing sun, so I'm staying in the shade. All right, I do have my canvas situated in a way that it's partially shaded, and I'm going to adjust a little bit. And now the next thing, what's the most important here, is tinting. Yesterday I didn't do any tinting of the canvas, but today I want to emphasize different ways of tinting. Now the scene and the time of day can be a way for you to make a decision about how you want to tint your canvas. And let me fix this thing, it's getting loose. Okay, didn't want to cooperate. Okay, so there you go. Now, okay, so this is such a little small canvas. I can't like bring this down for this particular thing, but I think I want to do a vertical. And so this is a new canvas, so I'm going to take this plastic off. And the other thing you need is your paper towels. Your paper towel and wipes. Wipes come in very handy because like if you're getting paint on your hands, this oil paint on your hands, the wipes are the better thing to try and get it off. Even though it's a water base, it will get it off your hands and help you not mess up and put paint on everything when you touch it. So get that clean. All right, now what I'm going to start with is a round brush. When I start to do the sort of mapping out of the piece I'm going to do, and then next I'm going to be doing next I'm going to be using the this is just a China brush with a little bit of color on it, and I'm going to try to use like a cool color. All right, take a little sip of my rosemary infused coffee, and I need to set up my palette in a moment. So this is a quick little, I'm going to be using my burnt umber, so I need to put that color up there. And I'm going to be using, I'm going to move this for a hot sec while I do this palette. And this is the thing about plein air painting. Sometimes it takes a little while to get set up. So you have to kind of like, if you're going in the morning, you got to give yourself time so that you don't miss a certain part of the day that you're aiming for. You got to give yourself time to select your location, set up your palette, and oh, that's the same color I just used. Select your palette, and then also so we got some, oh, I didn't need that much yellow, or that kind of yellow. And then also to tint your, I may have said that, tint your paper, canvas, and put some cerulean up there because I see where I'm working, cerulean blue is perfect for sky color here in Georgia. You might not use that in other places because, as you know, the sky is it looks different in different places. So you always got to have some sap green and some phthalo green when you're working in on a landscape of any sort. Pretty much you got to have some semblance of those three colors with your yellows. And lastly, just a little bit of my alizarin red. I've been saying crimson, but this is alizarin. They're very similar. All right, so there we go. We have our palette of color to work with. And I'm going to set that back down. And then I'm going to tint my canvas. And I want to use, so I'll get a little bit of this solvent that I'm using, turpentine. And I'll go over here to this blue and this burnt umber. And I'm going to put those on there just to tint the canvas. I want to get a little bit more pink pigment, but it's really brown and cerulean blue that I'm using to tint the canvas. That's just what I choose to use because the background out here is kind of a warm, mostly a warm background. And this just helps you when you're doing a plein air painting. Locate your color, and you don't have to fight with the white as much, you know, with the white canvas ground, that white ground. So I'm just going to fill that up with that cerulean blue. I'm just kind of really mixing it on the canvas. It doesn't matter. And it's okay if it's a little darker at the bottom, because that's where the ground is anyway. So get that fully tinted, and I like to get all the sides because I never know. I might be doing a wraparound canvas, and I might want to have those sides be visible. Just makes for a better situation. And you have options on presenting it if it's painted on the sides. You don't have to frame it. So, okay, so there it is. My canvas is tinted with ochre. I mean, not ochre. You can use ochre, but this is burnt umber and cerulean blue kind of blended together. And you might be able to kind of see that hint of coolness in the brown. So it's kind of like a neutral now. All right, so I'm going to put that China brush up because I'm not going to be using that anymore. And get my little mini easel over here together. Okay, just want to act up. All right, there we go. And then get that up there. Of course, when you paint that like that, you end up touching it. That's why the wipes are handy. Okay, so I just reminded myself that I don't have ochre up here, which is my third yellow, or my yellow brown. So I've added the ochre up there at the top to the palette. Okay, well, let's see who's here. Let's see, Quincy Murphy. Hey, over there. Let me see, where are you? Tennessee? No, Alabama? I'm not sure. Hey, Janice in Tennessee. There you go. And somebody else was there. All right. Margaret from my last school, Margaret Ozone, hey, and I said hey to Aaron already. All right, lovely guys. Thank you so much for watching and joining me. And now I'm going to get ready to go on a painting of, and I'll take this off one more time so I can share with you what my subject is. Nature. And today's quick painting is going to be of this little shed back here in the back. So this is a more of an architectural plein air with, you know, trees all around. So I'm going to sketch that out with this particular round brush, which has got away. Let's get out of there. All right, and okay, so now hopefully you're positioned in a way where you can see me, and I see that the sound button is being pressed, so let me move that. All right, just want to make sure the sound okay. Now, so here we go. I'm going to be using some burnt umber and this little bit of burnt umber with some turpentine so that it's loose and I can kind of sketch out the area or the object that I'm painting. So I'm feeling like it should be over here. I don't want it completely up there at the top, and I want this over here, and then let's see, and so I'm basically I sketch it out, get the composition I want, and then get the little shade at the little thing at the back. And some things, you know, when you're doing plein air, you have to figure out how to imply them as much as you can. So I did promise that I was going to try to do this a little bit faster than yesterday, so I don't want to keep you too long on it. And so I'm just going to kind of get through the actually, I want to change the perspective just a bit. I don't know. I guess hopefully you can see pretty well what I'm doing. So I just like to map out the parts, the sections, in relation to one another. And then I start to lay in the undercolor. And see, with oil, you kind of have to think about what the general colors are underneath. So to get that perspective of that little step together here, you have to map out what the colors are underneath and go from there. So getting it sketched out, almost there. I need to bring that down a little bit and bring that down to right about there. And also need to bring this down. Sometimes you gotta get your sketch together, and then that comes out just a little bit further down here, because I want to be looking up at it just like I am in reality, in real life here. So that's sketched out, and then I have to decide what in the background I want to include. So there's a fence, and I want to go ahead and it's kind of like a hill, so I have to make that go down. And there's a big tree right here, and there is a tree here. So let me put this down so I can make sure that you're seeing what I'm doing. So this is kind of the sketching out the composition. I placed it where I want it, and then you have some little grassy things, and then you decide what you want to leave out, and you go from there. So that's going to be it. It's going to be only those two trees showing in the foreground, and then there's a couple of trees behind. So I'm going to get those sketched in there. And so you might be able to see that, hopefully. Alright, and then if I want the foreground to be a little interesting, I could put this big rock that's sitting right over here. And then there's going to be some little grassy flowers here. And then the rest of this is just some light and shadow. So there's lots of shadow over here. So I can go ahead and just mark it, so to speak. We know that's the fence line right here. And this is the little shed overhead. And then the bottom of the fence is here. And I also have to indicate the bottom of the fence over here. So now I have enough of a drawing to go ahead and start laying in color. And you see my trees, all those branches and shadows. I just can't get away from shadows back here. There you go. I can bring it up closer, and so you can see that's the sketch of the shed. So now I'm going to start with laying in that color. And one other thing I need to absolutely add to my palette is white. I can't do the whites without the white. I don't need black because you want to try not to use black. I mean, that's kind of like a rule if you want to keep your picture a little vibrant in color. So I'm gonna get to my medium, which is my mixture of oops, and you know what, that has a load of paint right on the side where it was sitting yesterday on my palette. So now I got paint all over my hands, and that's why you gotta have some whites. All right, so now I'm excited. I get to the painting part. Now I've done all the logistics and the sketching out the composition. after I've decided on the location or the actual focal point, I got my medium going. Let's get rid of those guys. And oh, another thing I didn't talk about is when you're working with oil paint, you need to have either, I use ivory soap and also use this brush cleaner to clean up my brushes after I've rinsed them in a solvent. But this takes care of the actual brush, the hairs, moisturizing the brush fibers. So that's a good thing to buy if you want to keep care. And it's a lot of work keeping your brushes in good order because they can very easily get gunky with the linseed oil. So I'm going to put all these little brushes over here and there. And the one I want to use right now is going to be this one, which is a flat, but it's an angle flat. And that's going to help me. I'm going to start towards the back of the painting and work my way forward. So there is a house behind here, but I'm going to act like it's not there. And I'm just going to be putting in some tree color behind. So I'm going to be using my sap green with a little phthalo green, and I'm going to thin that out a little bit, just a tiny bit. But the sap green with the phthalo will push back, so that'll give you some nice dimensions. So I'm just gonna fill in that whole area with that nice sap green. And I'm gonna kind of make it motley, so you know, it'll imply that there's green trees back there and not a house. I don't want to deal with the house. And this brush is good because it helps me to, I can use the tip to get into small places, but it's a little bit wider. So it's not like a round, so flat with an angle. So get in between my little trees back here in the back. And I'm going to go back to my greenish blue and fill in that decently. Okay, now I have to change up a little bit because over on this side I have more little spots of sun peeking through all these little leaves over here. So I'm not going to completely fill that in. I want to go back and take a little bit of white and mix it with that green to get a little softer green that you might see over here. And so I want to get those little peaks of sky in that area. So I don't want to put green there because then it makes it harder to put my the other greens in there. So I mean the blue sky in there. So I'm adding a little white to show the sun light that I see on the leaves over there. And I'm just going to fill this in because there's rooftops that I'm not going to include in my picture back there. And there's some little darker shaded leaves, so I'm using my phthalo blue to show those. And then down here, there's a lot of branches and stuff going on. But I'm going to edit that. and just put the greenery, the leaves, because that'll be a distraction, pulling your eye over there to that area, and I don't really want that. So that is that. Let me get this little piece of trash out of there. Okay, wants to come back. All right, and so there you go. Now I'm gonna treat these trees that are here in the background. And what I'm gonna do, I need a dark brown. So I need to take a little alizarin with my umber, mix that together. So I'm taking a little umber and a little bit of that blue. This always makes you a nice, dark, interesting brown, depending on how much red or how much, but it makes it much deeper brown than your ochre. I don't know what's wrong with that, how that dried up like that so fast. Anyway, so I put a little bit more of the phthalo blue in there, and it's now almost a black. So I'm going to use that to do this tree, which is in my yard, that comes up alongside that fence. And what's nice about this black that I've made is that it really looks purple. So it gives you that feeling of shade back there. And then some of the other ones are not quite as dark as this one, so I'm going to add a little bit of white to that mixture and do the rest of those little trees that are back there. I forgot to do in between these two trees. So it has just a little bit of a purpley hint, and that's nice. Alright, and I need a little bit of my medium. Once you feel your brush kind of dragging, then your brush starts to do all kinds of things with the paint that you don't want to happen. Well, basically it starts to pull the paint off rather than put it on. So you want to keep your medium, keep your brush juicy as needed. Now I have to go back and put in the green in between those two. I kind of missed that. So I'm going to wipe this off on my little towel. That keeps my thinner from getting totally saturated with brown. So get right back in between those two and put the green in. And now I have the background done. For the most part, I'm just going to add a little bit of sky in there. And I want to sort of model, make it a little motley. And I want to put, I'm going to get a different little small brown. And I want to put in a little cerulean blue with white to give it those little sky, specks of sky. I don't want to make it too strong, but just a hint of that blue sky in there. All right, I don't know if you can't see that, so I have to hold it up closer. So there you go, just a hint of blue sky coming through there, and my trees are mapped in, and I'm gonna beef that up a little bit more. My patches of sky. Just want to pronounce them a little bit better. All right, that's that. I'm gonna leave that alone for now, and there's probably a couple of more spots where I see sunlight coming in, so I'm gonna just dab those in. Now I'll decide later how much brighter I want those to be. All right, put that down, and now there are some leafy areas that have little hits of sun back there in the back. So I'm going to hit those with this little mixture of white, cadmium yellow, and sap green. So that will bring up those leaves. Or imply. Okay, so there you might see that going on in the background. Now, I'm going to get to the next thing. I want to start mapping in the color on the shed, and then I'll work down to the ground. And so the roof, I'm going to go back to that mixture of umber, crimson, and the phthalo blue, and start to sketch in the roof. But I got to add a little white to show that sort of grayness of it. I need a little bit more blue in there. There we go. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to tint it first with this color. And then I want to do the texture of it. I probably should get a bigger brush. All right, what I'm going to do is move y'all a little bit closer, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing a little better. All right. All right, then that is going to be that. And then I want to go over here to this other side, add a little more white to that. And there are shingles here. So I'm just going to hint at those shingles after I put this kind of base color there. And then the doors. It's kind of a bluish color, blue-gray. All right, so I got to get my dark brown color back again. A little supply of that again. So I can draw these little shadows that I need and define this door. All right, and then that gray color, I need to work up on the bottom half of the house, the shed rather. Which is also the color of the doors. So I want to keep these all the same. All right, I need a different brush. I said that a minute ago. And let's see, I need a flat. All of these are so big. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to try to lay this in quickly. And get the house built. All right, and then kind of get some garbage in here somewhere. All right, so I need to back this up a little bit. And this side, bring it over a little bit. All right, then a little step down here. So I'm basically just blocking in color, and then I'll figure out the the textures that I need to tighten up. Bring that over. All right, now that's okay. And I need to do a little bit more sketching around the shadows. So here's my brown, a dark brown I'm using. Phthalo blue and umber. Not enough phthalo. All right, so there we go. Put that under there, that's underneath. Push that back. Put a little bit of that right there. I'm just thinking about these little shadowy areas here and there right now. Probably getting a little ahead of myself. And little green back there in the back. I got like English ivy takeover situation going on back there. A little bit over here. All right, and notice I'm speeding up a little bit. I'm just sort of thinking ahead about colors. Now I'm going to take a larger flat. Oh, need some medium, and I'm going to start with some yellow ochre and my burnt umber. Start to put in this ground in the foreground. That helps start shaping things up. And now we have our rock down here, so I'm not going to paint over that little marking. That's just my reminder. That's going to be a rock. And maybe another rock might make it interesting. Well, there's a bunch of rocks there, but I'm just going to do those couple. And so I want to warm this up right here. These little shadows that are on the ground. All right, and then over in this area is darker. So I'm going to get some of that phthalo, and that's the bottom of the fence right there. So I'm going to bring that on up, that green to that. And this is my little side. All right, so those are kind of helps me to map out the ground. And then I'm going to go over here, up and get up in there with some more pine straw and leaves that might be over there. And I'm just kind of like implying the colors of the, you know, the things that are on the ground without totally painting every little thing. And I'm keeping it loose for now. I'll tighten it up in a second. But I just felt like I needed to map that out. Now, the next thing is the fence, and I need a smaller flat, or I guess it could be a round. A smaller flat to do the fence, and the fence is going to be it's a little bit more yellow, brown. So the fence is going to be right behind there, but behind the fence I can see through the fence, and I like that. So I'm gonna add some yellow first. I'm gonna tint behind that fence yellow, and I'm gonna use my lemon yellow so that it can be bright spots of light, just a little bit over here, coming from behind this fence. And it's just the smallest hint of green towards the bottom. So I'm going to put that in. And then I'm going to go over that with my fence color. So let's see how that works. All right, so here we go. Fence color coming through. So I'm just gonna pull down the fence slats. It needs to be just a little bit lighter. Trying to put it on there without pulling up the green. So I'll take some more time to make that a little solider in a minute. So going over here to this side, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. That's a little bit darker over there though, so okay, so some of the slats are very close together, or I can't see between them, so just want to imply the wood. All right, and then there's always a little in between board. All right, then I need to go back and add a little bit of that green at the bottom. And Then I need to rinse all those. I need this here for the white. All right. Hopefully you can see what's going on here. All right. Now, I want to get to my shed area. I mean the shed shingles on the sides of the shed. And I need to color first. I want to do a little bit more all right. So to get that drawn the way I want it. And now just want to apply these little shingles, but I need a much smaller brush. There we go. Here's the one I need. A flat and some medium. Fully loaded, and it's kind of a cream. So I'm gonna mix that up. A creamy white, and all right. Then I need to sharpen up some of these details. Actually, that's the wrong. I got a little too busy making lines there. Didn't put too many. That's not what type of window it is. All right, so it's a 3-panel. 3-panel. I'm gonna go this way. And I want to darken up on the inside there. So I'm gonna get over here and get some of my dark color that I'm using for my black. Phthalo, brown, and red together. Makes a nice little muted color that almost looks black. Alright, then I want to do some semblance of these little shingle shapes here. So some of the shadow area is what I'm doing or thinking about here. All right, so it's getting there. Um, it's some semblance of what I'm looking at in this little whatever amount of time that I've been. I should have me a timer to sort of adjust that. But you know, you live and learn. So I'm putting in that little shingle texture here. Let me get this part done, or implied. And then what I want to do is go back with some little lemony yellow, white, and white. And bring the individual shingles up a little bit. Oops. Mm. Just trying to bring up a little bit of yellow light onto my shingle area. I don't want to pronounce them so much in this kind of quick painting, and I'm not trying to make them exact either. But I think it just needs that little yellowness because the color is actually a bit more creamy with hints of pink to it, but we're getting somewhere near that. All right, then I'm gonna leave that alone for now, and get back to doing some shadow lines. And all right, so that is the little shelter side of it. Okay, and now the little pots underneath there, I'm going to put those in as a blue. They're actually more of a cobalt blue, but I like this blue better. And let's see. And now I'm just going to put in some of the whites. Now the trick is now is not to let the white mix in with the underneath color. Now those are thicker than I want them to be. And I don't know. Well, thanks for those who are still sticking with me on this. I'm not sure where I am in my hour of live that I promised, but I sure do appreciate you being here while Imwasa is painting. Doing my plein air painting and trying to sure up a little quick paint. Example and lesson. So hopefully in this process that I just about run through and solve problems with and whatnot as I went along, maybe hopefully there's been something instructive and pleasing. Hopefully you were able to sit back and relax and hear my birds and my I think that's a whippoorwill or something right now, but hopefully you are able to enjoy the peace and tranquility of the outdoors here with me. And while I'm doing these and I'm working, I kind of have to remember that there are people might be present because I will go into my zone and that's when I stop talking. It's not so much that I need to concentrate as it is that I need to be sort of connected with the picture or the piece of work that I'm doing. Okay, so it was feeling kind of sketchy there for a minute for me, but it's coming together. It's much like, similar to what I was looking at. And the only thing I've not been able to do was put in the little plants that are here. Um, and I'll just kind of start sketching those in. I think they're hostas, are the type of plant, and they're red and green leaves. So I'm just kind of, this one is very full. So I'll just sort of sketch that in, and the other one's not as full. I'm making it fuller than it is. Put a little shadow over there with my crimson. Pull that around. And that's the thing with your with impressionism and plein air painting, is I love the looseness, and then you just can feel like you can just play after you get comfortable with your composition. And so now what I would do is I would just start playing with the ground, and there's lots of little weeds and plants here in this area, and I'm just implying that there's green in that area. I'm not gonna go there with all the like exact details. Need to close that up right there. And I'll put a little bit of texture on that right there, just a little. It's really got ivy growing up this tree. I gotta hire somebody to get rid of this mess again. It is so aggressive. And let's see, on this side of the trees you can see a little light, so I'm going to include that in there. A little bit of light coming from different places amongst the trees. And this is a different kind of tree, so I'm going to change it up a little bit. Make them look a little more alive. Oh, and I forgot, yeah, I want to spend a little time, I did want to spend a little time on texturing the roof, putting those shingles in. I'm just implying them. I'm not going to go there with exact painting of shingles, but just sort of a staggered pattern of rectangle-ish shapes. And I'll probably go back in and put a little bit more darker marks some places with my dark brown mixture. All right, yay! That is looking in shape, and I'll probably work on it a little bit more. But that is a kind of a quick paint. If I was out on a location, I probably would stick with it until like really done. Put that on the step, bring that up, shape it up. And then there are these little hints of sunlight coming through. So I'm gonna put those where I see them. I didn't like that, it was too bright. Alright, so I need to go back over here to this side and add, and then I'm going to get some of those, bring this up. I keep saying it, I'm gonna stop, but I don't. This little brush is on its last leg. I kind of like are rough with my brushes, and I have really, really good ones, and then I have just a set that, yeah, that probably, they're probably not gonna last long. So this is one of them. So we're just texturizing right now, giving a little bit more charm to things. All right, there we go. And let's get down here to our rock. Boop, 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 boop. Sure it up with a little white and gray, mixing in with that brown that's already there. And get some of my dark color down here on the bottom. All right, so that rock is kind of there now, and just add a little bit more light to it on the top, wake it up. And the other one we're going to put right here. Get some of that darker color on the bottom. Sit it on down. Oops, messing up. All right, and then all right, then sure that up, make sure they're sitting down. All right, and there we go. Let me get back here. Let's see, I don't like whatever that is going on there. All right, and then this is kind of like a sloping down thing going on over here. And actually there's a tree nearby that you can't see. I just want to put some shape to the ground, and then this is kind of more rising up. Need a little red mixed in there. I think. And different kinds of colors. And over here you got some little splashes of sunlight coming through. So I'm gonna add that because I want to. So that is where I'm going to stop for now and take myself a break. Oh, you know what? I did want to put the little red. Need some red in here. The red part of the flower. All right, and there we will stop. And that's going to be it for today. I am so happy to have shared this with you. And I always, at the end of a painting, I always feel a little bit of accomplishment, even if I mess it up or, you know, things don't go exactly the way I intended. There is the learning. There's always something to learn. And, you know, as I teach my students, you just have to, like, take what you know, apply it, and in the process of applying it, you have some discovery and some learning, and even if it doesn't work out, you will always learn something. All right, well, thank you so much. And for those who are interested in any of my work, there are those 2 videos. I have also been uploading them to my YouTube channel, which is under my name, Mwasa Sherrard, and on my Facebook, which is also on my name, Mwasa Sherrard. You'll be able to see the videos from these last 5 days of or 6 days of live. Today being Tuesday means that tomorrow is our Goddess Guides and Angels focus, and the demonstration will be collage and watercolor. So it's going to be fun. So it's going to be kind of a loose approach to doing maybe a goddess, and also a loose approach to using different types of paper. I have like a bucket of different little odds and ends, that, not a bucket, but a folder full of different papers and whatnot. So today, there it is. I'm going to take this off this mount and switch you around so you can see. There's the shed, and there's my little painting of the shed. And I think the demonstration went fairly close in terms of the rendition. All right, well, again, thanks so much for participating, joining me in the backyard art show and demonstrations that have happened on this week. So again, have a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye.